Hello and welcome to Neyland Stadium. I'm Ryan Sylvia. This is Noah Taylor. We're with VolReport.com on the Rivals Network. And Tennessee has gotten their revenge over South Carolina. I heard all week it's not a revenge game for them. Well, for the 100,000 plus fans in Neyland Stadium, it certainly was a revenge game, and they're leaving with smiles on their face. 41-20 in the favor of the Vols. Kind of stretched out that lead at the end of the game to really hammer home this win. But let's jump into our biggest takeaways. I'm going to start with you, Noah. We're going to start on the offensive side of the ball. What was the biggest thing that you took away from their performance?
I'm going to go with Squirrel White, and obviously, 104 yards for him tonight. But a lot of that picked up on the 50-yard play that really, gave Tennessee a boost offensively, set them up down here. I think Jabari Small scored 2 plays later. So a big kind of momentum-shifting play there for Tennessee. And Squirrel was asked about that play just a few minutes ago in the press conference and said he didn't even see the ball. He just kind of felt it in his hand. And even from where we were at in the press box, we're kind of shocked he caught that one. And in very tight coverage, should have been a defensive pass interference as well, but came up with a big catch there. Of course, that accounted for a lot of his yards, but a perfect 9 for 9. The ball was thrown his way 9 times tonight. He came up with a catch every time. So a really solid outing for him. Something I feel like we've kind of maybe been waiting for out of him, and it was big tonight because Dante Thornton didn't play. Yeah. So a big night for him offensively, and really kind of led the passing game for Tennessee. Yeah, and they're going to need more out of him. Different positions, of course, for White in the slot, for McCoy on the outside, but Brew McCoy with the really unfortunate, kind of gruesome injury today. We don't have the exact word on the injury yet. Josh Heupel said that he'll find out more as this weekend progresses, and he'll probably give an update at his Monday press conference. But if it is what it looked like and what we all saw, it's hard to imagine that Brew McCoy will be back on a football field anytime close to this year. So you need guys to step up. That could be a Squirrel White, even though he's in the slot and not on the outside. But they're also going to have to look for guys like Ramel Keaton, a veteran, on the outside. And then whether it's one of the 2 young guys, really, that are going to be in the race for that other starting role in Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod. We saw them both tonight. Didn't make the biggest splash at the end of the game, but Tennessee, of course, looking to run the ball more. And why not when you had guys like Jalen Wright running for 123 yards, a really solid game from him. He found the end zone. Dylan Sampson found the end zone, and Jabari Small found the checkerboard. So all 3 guys with the score. Jalen Wright leading the way with 123 yards, but that rush attack, just nothing South Carolina could really do about it all game. Seemed to be the difference on the offensive end, especially in that second half when you're trying to drain the clock, you're trying to go on these long drives. It was just boom, 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 boom from these running backs. They were picking up chunks of yardage, even if it wasn't a first down on that 1st and 10 run. It was setting them up for very manageable 2nd and 3rd down. So the rush attack, really solid. Squirrel White, even with the rush to start this game off, picking up 5 yards, but a good game from him through the air. Joe Milton, shaky in kind of all aspects. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Yardage wasn't horrible, but definitely would like more out of him, I think, going forward, maybe decision-making wise. But overall, the offense, 41 points. I think that going into the game, most people would have agreed that would be enough to win it. And, of course, it was, as Tennessee ran away with the win. But they didn't need all 41, 20 points for South Carolina. Let's talk about the defensive end. What stood out to you for Tennessee on defense? Yeah, I mean, we heard it going back to the spring and even this week from Rodney Gardner when we got to speak with him, the pass rush, how effective they wanted to be in that, not just in this game, but all season. And I think it's safe to say this is definitely the best quarterback that Tennessee has faced at this point, Spencer Rattler, and answered the call. I mean, they affected him all night, a guy that's mobile, that can get out of the pocket. And I think Tennessee comes up with 5 sacks tonight, so 6 sacks tonight, so even better. And James Pierce kind of led that charge with 2 of them. So a really good game out of him, a guy that's kind of been really solid all year for Tennessee and made an impact in that Virginia game and has kind of just kept building off that. But tonight, without a doubt, was a huge factor for Tennessee, kind of leading the charge in that pass rush. And talking to those guys in there, he obviously James Pierce is a young guy, but a guy that made an impact, a guy that they thought could I think Elijah Herring had a really good quote about them hearing about him and what he could do in the 4th quarter, and them getting a little bit of a view of that tonight, giving us some insight on the kind of effectiveness that James Pierce could have.
Yeah, 6 sacks for the team, 8 tackles for loss, a very, very banged up, and you really can't overemphasize it, a very banged up South Carolina offensive line. it looked like it tonight with how Tennessee's defensive line got to work on them, stopping them in the backfield on rushes, bringing down Spencer Rattler for sacks. But that also helped the secondary out. Kamal Haddon with possibly the biggest play of the night right before halftime, big third down and long. James Pierce, the guy we just mentioned, 2 sacks on the day, nearly got his third. Kind of got a hand on Spencer Rattler, definitely affected the throw, sails over the receiver's head, right into Kamal Haddon's hands. He runs down the sideline right over there for the score, make it a 14-point ball game in the favor of Tennessee right after that Brew McCoy injury too. That kind of shook the team up a little bit. Joe Milton even said in the press conference that I thought was interesting. He was like, I didn't want to go back out there after that. Like, that's a guy that, of course, very close with. I've seen all the work he puts in, and it's almost like an unfair injury.
Yeah.
It makes you not want to go out and play football. And Tennessee's offense kind of looked like that in those 2 drives after with 2 punts. They needed to get to the locker room, be able to reset, and Kamal Haddon's interception not only kind of helped them get momentum into the locker room, but gave them that 2-score advantage that I think went a long way as Tennessee ultimately scored out of the half as well and gave them a big lead that they were never surrendering.
And I think too, what's big about their response there and Kamal's, kind of turning that into that half into a big momentum shift for Tennessee was last year. Obviously, you have the injury to Hendon Hooker on the road, and that game was kind of out of hand at that point. But being here at home kind of helps. You have the lead at that point. Just like you said, it's kind of easy for these guys to maybe, I wouldn't say fold there, but definitely be affected by what happened. And it was clear offensively on the 2 drives after the injury. But you're right, Kamal Haddon with the big play.
Yeah, really big stuff from Kamal Haddon. Let's talk a little bit about special teams before we get out of here, though. Kind of 3 big plays that stood out. Number 1, Kai Kroger. I mean, probably the best punter in the country. Showed off his arm, though, converting that 4th down conversion on the fake punt, something that Tennessee couldn't let happen this game. They did. It was just once. So, I mean, you've seen South Carolina have games where special teams really carries them throughout the entire game. It was just kind of that one play that they tricked Tennessee on, but kind of we're hoping Tennessee would be prepared for something like that. They weren't. They got caught off guard. So that's something that you're not going to face a team that's kind of as aggressive on special teams as South Carolina is the rest of the year, but something that they're going to need to make sure doesn't happen going forward. Also right here, D. Williams coming down the sideline on a ridiculous return, ends up finding the end zone, gets called back all the way. A senseless block in the back kind of brings that one back. So that's something obviously you can't have, especially on one that was away from the play like that. That's something that'll definitely be looked at in the film room and not be a fun time for that special teams unit. Final one, kickoff. Saw another one go out of bounds, something that continues to sporadically be an issue for Tennessee on special teams is keeping those kickoffs in bounds. Not something I'm too worried about. I think that's something that Josh Turbeville's very progressively gotten better as this year goes on. But it was something that came up today, and with the penalty, ball got put at the 50-yard line right there before half, gave South Carolina an opportunity to cut that lead from 14 after the pick 6 down to 7 again, which kind of would have zapped that momentum a little bit. So Tennessee caught a break that they were able to get that stop. But those are 3 special team moments that Tennessee definitely wants back, and they will need to improve on going forward. But overall, I think special teams did a pretty solid job. Charles Campbell didn't miss a kick. Jackson Ross looks really good right now.
He does. He looks like he's adjusted for sure since week 1.
After that week 1 and week 2 kind of struggles, Jackson Ross at punter looks really solid. But overall, a really solid win for Tennessee, a win that they really needed to get. Now 1-1 in SEC play. SEC East still on the table if you run the table now. So a big win for Tennessee. They have a bye week coming up, but that doesn't mean that we have a bye week. We'll still be meeting with Josh Heupel and players throughout the week as they look to get rested up. Heupel said this one came at a good time, kind of injury-wise, before they welcome Texas A&M and their backup quarterback, Max Johnson, but still a really good quarterback, into Neyland Stadium as they look to keep this train rolling. Make sure you go to VolReport.com for all of our written content. Head over to the message board as well, as we've had some good discussions. And subscribe to the YouTube channel to not miss any videos. Links to everything you will need is in the description. Thank you for watching.